One. This is October 27, 2015. Thank you for joining the webinar. Just as a check and balance, this webinar is called the Mobile App Monitoring Guide, How to Deliver the Best User Experience with End-to-End Monitoring. And my name is Jim Copio, and I am, just by way of quick introduction, I'm the Vivid chapter in the Carolinas in the United States, and also a SIG leader for VSM. I've been a Vivid member for about 16 years and also an HP partner for 16 years. And again, I reside in Charlotte, North Carolina. So this is being hosted by Hewlett Packard Enterprises. And I'd like to introduce our three key speakers. For starters, Eric O'Dell. He's the Senior Product Marketing Manager at HP Software. And he'll be focusing on many things, but especially mobility. We have Tom Fisher. Tom Fisher is a Product Marketing Manager at HP Software. And he'll focus a lot on diagnostics, etc. And we're hoping to have Darren Posey join us. He's a little detained, but he's on his way to the webinar. He's a Technical Marketing Manager at HP Software. And he focuses extensively on web and synthetic and Pulse Active. So those are our three speakers. They'll certainly tell you guys more about them when they get on. From a housekeeping perspective, this is live, and it is being recorded. So in a few days, you'll be seeing a link, and you can click on that link and pull the recording, as well as slides and any other collaboration from this particular webinar. Sessions on Q&A, they're going to be ongoing. So as you have questions, just pop them into the little template for questions. You'll see it at the upper right-hand side of the screen generally, and you click submit and then that'll be shown to the presenters, and we'll read them out loud as we go, and we'll also do that at the end, whatever we don't get to. The questions will also be posted on the recordings link in a few days, so you can see all the Q&As and the answers. Any questions, just send a question out on the question how to use the control panel, but it generally works very, very well. Okay, I'm going to actually just pass it on over to Eric and of Hewlett Packard Enterprises, and he's going to start the presentation demos. Eric, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Jim, and welcome everyone to today's webinar, How to Deliver the Best User Experience with End-to-End Monitoring. Now, we all know that monitoring is the most crucial aspect of IT ops, but the expectations of monitoring have evolved, and mobile apps are now the forefront of every digital business. So to be relevant in the new mobile app economy, IT must align with the strategies around the user experience. But what's missing is an end-to-end visibility that starts with the user action, goes to the network request, and to all the services in the back end that are involved in fulfilling the user request. So let's get started by first defining what do we actually mean by the user experience and what businesses must do to respond to the rising user expectations. Now, this is an article from CBC News that just came out last week, and it's all about how Bell Canada was faking the a 5-star rating on about their mobile application. So they were fined $1.25 million for faking the mobile app reviews in the mobile app stores. And apparently, the mobility team at Bell Canada wanted to boost the credibility of their mobile app to get more of their customers to download and adopt the app. So they encouraged the Bell Canada employees to write anonymous raving reviews. Now, the article goes on to tell how Bell Canada got caught, but what's more interesting to me is that Bell Canada understood the power of 5-star rated apps in the App Store. They knew that to affect brand credibility, user adoption, and revenues, the ratings and reviews had to tell a story of exemplary user experience. So where Bell Canada missed the point was that achieving a 5-star rating doesn't come through falsifying reviews, because the truth of the mobile app's quality and value will present itself as users begin to experience the mobile app. Eventually, there's no fake review or fake star rating that will boost adoption ratings, lower user churn, or increase revenues. And it simply comes by continuously delivering on an excellent user experience. So let's take a look at some of the characteristics that are used to define the user experience. First off, let's talk about utility. Is the app useful to achieve my objectives? What about usability? Does the app help me get things done easily and efficiently? Another thing to take a look at is aesthetics. Is it visually appealing? Is it enjoyable and entertaining? And about empowerment, does the app make me feel in control? Some people want to identify with the app. You know, can I see myself in the app and do I feel better when I'm using it? Others, it's very important for stimulation. Does the app give me that inspiration or arouse that wow feeling? And there's also value. Is the mobile app important to me to the point where I can't do without it? And you know, to some people, and maybe not just to people that are playing Candy Crush, playfulness is important. They want this app to stimulate them to play, and you know, that can even be something for a business purpose. I find even with my travel apps, I enjoy some of the playfulness of some of those apps. But as we look at there's a Gartner report called Delivering User Experience with Agile Development Teams. The user experience is defined as the perceived quality when the user is conducting a work task. But doesn't this definition of the user experience go beyond just the function or the aesthetics and the stimulation of the mobile application? Considering that today's mobile user is the most impatient and intolerant user of all time, meaning that these users expect to have what they want when they want it, what might they do if their favorite app began to dysfunction, perform slow, freeze, or consistently crash? Here at HPE, we did our own survey of mobile app usage and abandonment, and we examined a number of issues affecting the user experience, such as performance, stability, and resource usage issues. Now, the survey found that 36% of the mobile app users will delete a mobile app for heavy battery usage. After all, if a mobile app is draining the battery life out of a user's device, then users are limited in the amount of time they get to experience and gain the benefits of mobile apps. Now, this sounds a little trivial, but maybe not so. If you take a look here, in the news again was Facebook, and you know, it showed up in the news in Information Week just this last week. You know, iOS users got a new feature with iOS 9 that helped them to isolate battery-hogging mobile applications. And once that visibility was made available, Facebook had to quickly respond to frustrated users who complained in the app stores and in the support groups about how the Facebook mobile app was draining the battery life out of their mobile device. And Facebook had to quickly respond as this issue began to upend their brand credibility with their user base. So beyond resource usage, let's talk about the other rising expectations of app users. In that same survey that we did on mobile app usage and abandonment, we found that 61% of mobile app users expect that the app should load in less than 4 seconds. And almost half of those users expect these applications to refresh screen to screen in 2 seconds or less. Now, 53% of these users surveyed said they will delete a mobile app if it stops responding or crashes. And when we asked them what actions they would take when they were experiencing slow performing, crashing, battery hogging mobile apps, these same survey respondents said they first check for an update. Next, they'll stop using the app. Third, they'll seek an alternative. And finally, they're just going to delete that mobile app. 1 out of 10 of those users surveyed said they were likely to go to the App Store and leave poor feedback or low star ratings. So this is serious business. Ultimately, it gets down to one thing. User experience is today's new service level agreement. If businesses only monitor the back end and network requests but fail to take into account the user perspective or the user actions on the client side, they risk their brand and credibility with their users, and ultimately they risk future adoption and revenues. So now more than ever, the developers and DevOps are at the front line of the user experience. You see that to deliver that excellent user experience, developers need to isolate mobile apps faster, mobile app issues faster, and continuously improve app quality and the user experience. But how can they achieve this when they need to test and monitor for over 2,500 mobile devices and over 100 different operating systems? Then they have to balance all the Android flavors like Gingerbread, Jelly Bean, Lollipop, and then all of the iOS versions as well. But who has the time to test or monitor all the permutations of mobile app usage? There are dozens, if not hundreds, of possible user flows for each mobile app. And to add to this mix, the connection options, percentage of free RAM space, the battery life of the device, and even the orientation of the device and the user action, there are an impossible number of permutations to monitor or to even begin to prioritize fixes for improving the user experience. So how can developers really know how their mobile app performs once it's out in the real world? After all, what's tested well in the lab could go belly up when we take it out there and deploy it. So this is where we talk about end-to-end monitoring. And this is all about mobile and web application performance issues, how they may arise in the server tiers. Some of the analysts like IDC Research found that 75% of IT organizations are suffering from degraded business applications, slow networks, and slow load times. Almost 2/3 of the time, IT organizations are learning about performance problems from their end users rather than monitoring, and that came from Gartner. Forrester Research reports that 31% of the performance issues take more than a month to resolve, or they're never actually resolved at all. So developers and DevOps are turning to IT ops to help them gain this visibility to the mobile app user experience, and they need tools for improving this. Okay, so in another survey that we conducted here at HPE for DevOps and APM, 57% of these DevOps and developers, they lack an application performance monitoring system that features user experience dashboards. And 61% lack the end visibility from the back end to the network request to the user action. And additionally, 67% have no insight into the line of code that is causing the slow performance or crash. And as mobile apps become more predominant, and of course, as we begin to see a mobile workforce, and even the workforce are using mobile applications to be efficient and proficient in their daily lives, IT ops teams will be held accountable for all the organization's applications performance and availability. So they want to be able to gain control, or should want to gain control, over monitoring systems used by the apps teams. They'll need to provide a single pane of glass for a 24/7 NOC. And at the same time, IT ops will need to provide self-service solutions with insight into production that delegate monitoring, and a point solution that integrates with broad coverage IT systems. So in today's idea economy, many of our best ideas will come to life as applications, and these applications enable your customer experience becoming the face of your enterprise to your customers. The fact of the matter is, in the new style of business, you depend upon your apps more than ever. So if you're allowing your customers to be the testers of your applications and waiting to make fixes when you hear complaints at the help desk of the app stores, you're placing your brand, your credibility, and your future revenue at risk. So today we're introducing you to Hewlett-Packard Enterprise AppPulse, a set of tools using big data and analytics-driven APM. And these tools help you correlate data from multiple sources to determine the health of your applications, whether mobile, web, or cloud, so you can determine root cause of issues that are negatively impacting the user experience and ultimately your business. So during this pulse check, we're going to show you how to get instant visibility into the health of your apps by measuring the user actions. And then you'll see how to leverage synthetic monitoring to simulate user sessions to ensure application availability and performance. And finally, we'll show you how to get deep visibility into the code, database calls, and third-party services that are impacting your transactions. So why don't we get started with AppPulse Mobile. And what I will be showing you today is how in seconds you can go from a high-level health check of your mobile app down to the user actions and to the line of code. So let me just start the demo. And here we go. So AppPulse Mobile considers all the aspects of the user experience in mobile apps to generate what we call a Fundex score between 0 to 100. And this mobile app user experience score provides a high-level view of the health of the mobile app and the quality of the user experience. The score is calculated for each user based upon the experience they have with the UI, and this includes performance, stability, and resource usage. But the power of the Fundex score is how it gives mobile teams the ability to drill down to the root cause of the issues impacting mobile app users. So now what we see here is a Fundex score that we can filter and change it from 24 hours to getting a benchmark of over the last 7 days. And we've got a score here of 79. And what is this Fundex score made up of? Well, we've lost 14 points due to stability. We've lost 12 points because of crashes, 2 points because of errors. And if we look down here under app versions, we find that the real problem is not all of our applications, app versions like 2.8, 2.7. Those seem to be in good shape. But what we've got is a problem with the latest version, the UI that was uploaded with 3.0. So we can filter here for not just all versions, but here to the latest version and find out what our real score is. And of course, that's even worse than the rest. It was 73, and we've lost more points due to crashes and errors. So it's this 1.8 K of users who are experiencing the problem. So we can drill down by going into the stability region, and we find out here the number of people that are experiencing crashes on a daily average. So there's 299 users who are experiencing crashes on a daily average, and most recently we have 224 crashes that are experienced when people are using the check deposit screen. And they're tapping on this scan button. So you can see now we're no longer dealing with just the network request, but we're dealing with the very specific user actions that are occurring. And now we want to drill down even further here, and we can get down to the level of the exception stack trace code. So here we have the crash log, and we find out here that there's a problem with the camera cache, and we also can take a look at the device state. So we can see here that we're looking at this individual's session with they're on the app version 3.0. They are on an operating system of 5.0, and they're using a device of HTC One XL. But here we can also see their connection speed, their free RAM percentage, free storage space, their battery percentage, and whether or not they're holding the orientation of the device, profile, or landscape, and of course whether or not it's rooted. But we can go even deeper than this by going here to the crash trail. And what we find here is that this individual's experience from the launch all the way to the crash, it almost looks like a subway station map where we see every point that they went through the application from screen to screen, from the point of login to the account screen, money transfers, back to the account screen, and then they were trying to make a check deposit. What we've also seen here is through the SDK, the developer was able to put in a breadcrumb to find out more information about the user's experience. So we look here at this breadcrumb, we see that their login was successful, and we also see that the HTTP request was also successful. But when it came to actually depositing the check, we find that the low camera cache memory was the main problem, and of course they tapped the scan button and there was the crash. So what we've done here is we've very quickly gone from a high-level measurement, understanding that we have a problem with stability. We've then focused in on a very specific issue with their device state, very specifically with the crash trail, and also down to the exception trace. We can now submit the defect, and we can prioritize this fix for the development team. We can decide whether the severity of this is critical or high or medium or low. And then what's most important to the development team is their ability to reproduce. And so we look at this crash trail, everything that the user experienced is there, and of course there's the stack trace code, so we can immediately find where the root of the problem is, down to the level of the environment, everything that we saw with the device state. We simply press submit and it's done, and you're able to get on your way to improving the experience of your users. So let's head back to the Fundex score, and we found that there were some other issues with the user experience that included performance issues. They lost 6 points from a slow UI. And so we can drill down from the UI performance and find out some of the issues that are the problem. We find that there are a number of people that are on the brokerage screen. They're trying to get a stock quote, and they're having an average response time of 5.3 seconds. We also see here on the money transfer screen, they're tapping on the transfer button, and their average response time is 15.7 seconds, which is completely unacceptable in today's environment. But we can also drill in a little further here to know what's happening with various operating systems. Here on the right-hand side, we find that those people that are using KitKat 4.4.2 are having a little bit of a problem. On the average, they're having a response time of 6.8 seconds, but when you filter it here, comparing KitKat together with the devices, we can now see that those folks that are on the Samsung Galaxy S2, the folks that are on HTC's Cha-Cha, they're having the worst experience of all time because their experience is a response time of 10.7 seconds or 11.5 seconds. So now you can see that you can have some very detailed conversations together with your development team to help them to identify where they want to do their monitoring, their testing here with which operating system, which device. Let's go even a little deeper. Let's check here on this money transfer. They've tapped the transfer button. They're seeing a response time of 15.7 seconds. We click here and we can see the HTTP request. And now, as of course, every screen that you go to requires the application to go to an HTTP to a server to refresh the data. And so now you can look here and we find this one here is about getting the account balance. This one, this request here is about the transfer of money, and we see the amount of time it took for the response time was 6.78 seconds, and the time to buffer was 4.75 seconds. Again, which is taking way too long for your users, and they're complaining about the slowness of your app. Finally, before we move on to AppPulse Active, I want to talk about the user behavior. And here we see the user flow. And this is the journey that your users are taking through your application from the point that they entered the application, whether that was in the login screen or maybe they had something hibernating like something in the background with this brokerage screen, to the point that they exited. And sometimes what you see here in some of these colors, they're giving you alerts that we have a significant number of people who are exiting your application at various junctures in their journey through your application. Here on the brokerage screen, we see that 78% of the users of this application were experiencing exited the application, and we had 15% of the actions that were taking over 2 seconds. Over here on the check deposit, we had 12% of your users that were experiencing crashes, and 4.7 of the actions were taking over 2 seconds. So you can see the power of the visibility that you get with this user flow, where if you had something that you wanted your users to get to here on the on one of these screens over here, and yet your users are dropping off on the screen prior to, you need to optimize, and you can again have these in-depth conversations with your developers to show them that it is on this screen when the users are taking this action and they're experiencing either this crash or performance. So with that, I'm going to conclude this session about AppPulse Mobile, and I'm going to be handing it over to Darren Posey so that he can talk to us about AppPulse Active. But before I do, I want to talk to you, just refresh with you about AppPulse Mobile. We're providing a mobile monitoring best-of-breed tool. We help you measure slow performance of launch times. We help you measure the percentage of battery life consumed per minute of app usage by device and OS. We help you focus on user actions that cause crashes and errors, not just network requests. And we're helping you improve by prioritizing those fixes that have the most impact. And we're helping you follow the common user flows from where they entered and exited the app. So one of the things that I want to highlight is the fact that it's automated codeless and tagless instrumentation. We help you measure the end-to-end user experience, and we also provide you the Fundex, which is the first mobile app user experience score. And from here, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Darren Posey, who will be taking you through AppPulse Active.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining with us. And I'd love to share with you AppPulse Active. Actually, I'm going to have Eric share the first few slides that he has in his deck, and then I'm going to go into the demo. So why would someone want to use AppPulse Active? Well, again, guys, this is all part of a suite. It's not just a single product that stands by itself, but AppPulse Active is the synthetic play that's a part of the AppPulse family. And what does that mean? Many of the people probably on this call have heard of a product called LoadRunner, and this is the backbone of our AppPulse Active portion of the product because it runs on LoadRunner. So your synthetic monitors are created with the most powerful tool that's currently on the market for recording applications and then replaying them. What AppPulse Active allows you to do is replay those created scripts from points of presence around the globe. This way you can continue to monitor your application after development in production, right? So you can continue to see if your customers are getting the right kind of user experience, right? One of the reasons why we call this a proactive approach, and this is not just HP, but as an industry, anybody doing synthetic monitoring is considered proactive because these monitors are always running. They don't take breaks, they don't go on holiday, their kids don't get sick. They're always running all the time, 24/7, and the goal of that is to be able to give you awareness of what's happening long before your users call, your users open tickets, before they delete your applications. This proactive approach allows you to take action far before those things take place. And let's remember this, guys, the most expensive way to monitor your application is with your end user. There's no more expensive way to do that. So this tool allows you to be in touch and keep a pulse on what your applications are doing. The second thing we do is we let you measure, focus, and improve. What does that mean? Well, if you're in development and you're doing load testing against your scripts, load testing against your applications, you know what the limits are, what your infrastructure can handle. You know what your performance should be. But when you go into production, you want to hit it about every 15 minutes from 3 or 5 locations, just to make sure that it's still within that baseline, within that boundary, what you expect your user's experience to be. And over time, you can focus on what's really causing issues. If you make small changes to your application, does it affect your end users? Are we seeing performance fall apart when we make changes to the app? Are we improving it by making better fixes, better changes? And is the user experience getting slower or faster over time? These are things you can track with synthetic monitoring. Another thing the tool allows you to do is when you do run into an issue, it can allow you to get to the root cause very quickly. When you have an outage, it's not about hours, it's not about days, it's about minutes, right? It's how quickly can you get that app back up for customers, and how quickly can you get to the root of the problem. And because this tool takes error logs and because this tool takes snapshots, it allows you to visually see where problems are taking place inside of the tool, and so you can address those problems very quickly. And then, as many of you guys know, our modern apps aren't just all native. They don't just sit completely on our infrastructure and our tools. We're using outside APIs. We're allowing people to put ads and banners inside of our tool. We're allowing links to other products within our tools. And so these third-party people need to be checked on, right? So another thing that synthetic monitoring allows you to do is keep track of what your third parties are doing. Are they meeting their SLAs that they have with you? Are you able to track that, and are you able to track it non-subjectively, right? You're able to show them, hey, here's the report of what your application's done the last month. It's not in scope with what our business is about. So it allows you to have that discussion and to have it in a way that everyone can agree this is not acceptable. And then as I kind of poked out a little bit before, because we're running on LoadRunner, your team is already using LoadRunner for development. You can use those same scripts that they're doing and just make some minor modifications to them and then put them out into the wild in production. And you can continue to test those applications well after they're gone through their dev cycle. And then once things happen, you can send that information back to your development team, and they'll be speaking the same language because they're using the scripts that they've created, that they're familiar with, and so forth. So again, guys, what is the value prop here? We're trying to improve the app performance, and we're trying to do that through a synthetic monitoring play. It allows you to keep a watchful eye on your applications and to be proactive. And because it runs on LoadRunner, you can also leverage something very powerful called Mobile Center. Now, as you know, we've been doing mobile for a while with LoadRunner. It's nothing really new. But with the power of Mobile Center, you can test far more permutations that are out there on the market. It allows you to plug in your device directly into your LoadRunner tool, record that application directly from your phone, and then once you have that created script, you can deploy it to Apple's Active and then run it through Mobile Center and our POPs, run it from our POPs around the globe and get that user experience for your mobile device. So it's your native apps, it's your created apps, it's your public apps, it's your internal apps, all being used through Apple's Active. So guys, I'm going to show you a quick demo of what the product looks like because everyone likes to see what the new tool looks like. And hope give it a few minutes just to make sure it loads up for everybody. Okay, so this is the dashboard that you get when you sign into Apple's Active, and what you're looking at is a very easy to use dashboard. And if you wanted to focus on just apps that are failing, you can click on just show me just the filtered apps down to my red ones. If you want to look at everything, you can view all of your applications in a single view. You can also make custom views, so you can create your own unique dashboards if you would like. And this allows you to really kind of group it all together. So you can take and drag and drop applications together and say, hey, these have a same similar feel, and create your own groups just in a drag and drop setup. It's really easy to use. But we've also allowed people to see everything that's going on with their application very quickly. So if you look at applications that are having some issues, you can see we visually show you the amount of alerts that are taking place, the average performance, and the availability of your app all in a single view. This overview allows you to quickly see where you need to focus your attention. And when you look at an app like this, it's, wow, something's really wrong, right? Something is going awry. And you can get to that problem very quickly and solve it. Now, everything on this page is clickable and drillable, but we've also created a nav on the left that allows you to drill very quickly to the issue that's taking place, and you can understand what it's doing in a very rapid format. Okay? So what does this mean? How can you get to these problems quickly, and how can you solve them? Well, one of the things you could do is you can get a snapshot of your error, and you could see if visually see where your errors are taking place and understand, like, is this really an issue that's taking place for my customers, or do I just need to update the monitor? Is this a location issue? And because you can visually see with the snapshots what is happening, you can address those problems much, much quicker. One of the things people say all the time is, well, how long does it take to create an application? And creating an application in Apple's Active is very easy. So you start by creating a new application, you give it a name. In this case, we'll call it a test app. And then you want to assign it a series of locations. So our tool comes with over 70 locations right out of the box. You can pick any of these locations and run your scripts directly from there. And adding locations is quite simple. But you can also add your own private POPs. What does this mean? This means you can put last mile POPs into your infrastructure, and then you can test from those last miles. Or if you have a series of locations around the globe that you would like to test from, you can add your own private POPs. Now, this is very critical for customers who have internal applications that aren't available to the outside world. So you can put these POPs inside your firewall, and then you could test with your scripts against your internal applications and still report all that metric into your Apple's Active and continue to store it. So it's a very easy way for you guys to be able to test your applications. Then once the application is created, you want to add a series of monitors to it. So inside of the tool, we allow very simple, easy to use monitors directly inside the tool. So URL, ping, port, DNS, and FTP, these can all be done directly inside of the tool. And all you have to do is select what you want the application to go to, and it will test against that. So if you want to do something really simple, you can do that directly within the tool. But you can also, like I said before, use LoadRunner scripts. And this allows you to upload very powerful scripts that use one of the 35 inside the tool LoadRunner protocols and deploy them out into the real world and then test against your applications. So this is where we're going at with synthetic monitoring, and I'm hoping that you guys get excited about it. We are offering free trials of both AppPulse Mobile and AppPulse Active currently. And to get to those free trials, the 30-day trials, you just go to sas.hp.com and you can sign up for your free trial of both AppPulse Active and AppPulse Mobile. At this time, I would like to pass the mic over to my colleague Tom, who's going to talk about an exciting new product called AppPulse Trace. This is a RUM and diag play, but I'm not going to steal the thunder. I'm going to let Tom take it away. So, Tom, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Darren. If you could all please hold on a second here while I get the appropriate screen up on the desk for you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the anchorman on our presentation today, but I have the very exciting opportunity to speak with you about the end-to-end component of our end-to-end monitoring capability. And that's a product that we're calling AppPulse Trace. Where this product is right now is we are in private beta for about the next couple weeks, and we are proceeding to public beta, open to all comers who want to give the product a try in about the early to mid-November timeframe. What you can do is go straight to our site, and I'll show you a slide at the end of the presentation that shows you how to sign up, but we'll also be glad to send you the link to anybody that wants to give it a try. And what this does is take the information from the user experience, which is the critical part of monitoring these days, to see how the end user is experiencing the application. But we're also extremely cognizant that sometimes the application is running perfectly, be it in the browser or in the mobile device, and a disconnect, such as an HTTP 500 error or just a slow server reaction happens, and you have to be able to see into that stack to ensure that your application is performing well. So that's what AppPulse Trace does. It's part of the AppPulse family, which means that it will be a SaaS or software as a service-based product. You might say, well, you already have a product called HP Diagnostics. That is correct. And AppPulse Mobile and AppPulse Active are connected to Diagnostics, and that is an on-premise solution. AppPulse Trace is using and leveraging the same technology that we used in Diagnostics, but turning it into a SaaS base so that you can basically consume it from the cloud. The advantage of that, of course, is immediate availability, and we're also able to redesign it to make it extremely simple to deploy. Matter of about a 1-minute installation per server to put an agent onto a server to start monitoring the server before it starts generating information in the dashboard. We gather and then collate the statistics using the big data repository so that we can provide remedial diagnostics when problems are found so that you can get in-depth information about the product. So here's a screenshot, and because this product is still in beta, okay, what we're showing you is the engineering prototype, both in the screenshots and in the demonstration I'll be doing, which is what we intend the final product to be and what the look and feel of the final product will be, so that you can get a feel for when we release, and the release is scheduled for the early part of next year, what the product will look like and how the dashboards interact and how they interact with the other part of the AppPulse suite. Essentially what you find here is we do the full end-to-end trace through an entire server stack. And if you can see on the screenshot here that is behind the graph shows you response times and any problems that are occurring. If this screen or if these screens look similar to you as do the mobile screens and the active screens, that's it exactly. We found that our users of those products are very happy with the look and feel of the screens, very simple to access and use. So we're putting the same design concept into Trace that we put into those two products to make it extremely simple to find out the information you need to get to immediate action with the appropriate level of drill down so you can get to the detail that you need. And I'll be showing you that in a demo. If you look at the screen that says Flow behind the first screen, That is the end-to-end flow, and that's what you may be accustomed to seeing from application performance management solutions that monitor the server side of things. What we are doing is connecting together a very robust mobile APM and a very robust synthetic monitoring capability directly with this end-to-end flow so that it's seamless and you can go straight from the front end to the back end to find out instantly as to what the problems are that are causing a poor user experience on the front end. Oops, we had a slight technical difficulty here. Okay, there we go. This is a topology that you may have seen, and what this is a topology map. Okay, it illustrates that the server environments are very complex environments, so that there are many servers that go behind providing a service to mobile and web users, and also to thin client applications that you may have resident on desktop in-house. The ultimate goal is to monitor everything through all of the server tiers to show exactly where problems reside, and they can show up anywhere in the stack. Literally, we say about Trace, as well as HP Diagnostics, that we trace behind the firewall. Okay, that means that the front-end user experience is taking place someplace outside of your enterprise, but all of the secret sauce, so to speak, is behind the firewall, or in other cases, in the cloud. Or in many cases, nowadays, as a hybrid, and where there's a combination of on-premise servers that you use for steady-state operations and then use cloud-based services for when you need to scale up or scale down during peak demands. What AppPulse Trace provides is the capability to see through all these layers. Anywhere you can instrument a server, you will be able to see what's going on with that server, what's happening there, right down to the thread level, code level, and an interesting new part which I'll speak to you shortly. And happen again. My apologies for the slide skipping ahead a little bit. Essentially what Trace provides is it starts out with the user experience monitoring. Okay, that is essentially the holy grail of SDLC, is that you have to monitor the user experience. So that's the starting point. Without it, it's nothing but a set of statistics on the back end that tells you what performance is. Okay, then what we do provide then is code level detail through not only the code down to the method level, but also down to logs, which ironically contain a great deal of information about what's going on in the server environment to show you everything that we could possibly tell you about what's happening with those server-side applications. And then we mesh it all together, okay, into a big data repository so that we can use it for statistical analysis to tell you why things are happening and where problems are occurring and what you can do about to remediate those problems. So let me skip now before my screen flops again and go to a quick demonstration for you. This is the AppPulse Trace dashboard. As I mentioned, this is an engineering prototype, so not everything is live in here right now, but there's a number of key capabilities in here that show the key functionality of Trace. First, starting out, if you see the screen here, you'll notice the graph that we had in the slide is exactly the graph that was on that screenshot. Okay, so this is the slide here that's showing the response times broken down over a period of time. Then you'll notice some boxes and some links as we go down through the graphs that you can navigate through, and that's how we're providing information as to what's going on and allow you to drill in a little deeper. So what we'll do is start out with the first one, which is to go down and take a look at what is doing slow hits. And here you'll see an end-to-end connection tree that's showing you through different methods, through JavaScript, through web load times. This is actually a web page load capability that shows you how long everything's taking to take place. And you'll notice that if something like the one I'm pointing to right now is taking, for some reason, an incredibly long amount of time, and that looks a little out of bounds from what you're expecting, that's where you can drill in then and make a determination of, or investigate further as to what is causing the problem. Okay, the next thing is to take a look at, we'll investigate the server time. I think for some reason that screen is not responding at the moment. Okay, let me go on to the next one. this was the same one. Well, in every good demonstration, sometimes a glitch does occur. With me, please. I hopefully will get to the slide, to the screen that I was expecting to see next. There we go. Okay, it was just doing its own thing. Okay, this is the transaction flow screen. Okay, and what's happening here is, first of all, okay, we can take a look-see here. This is how we're planning to show you from the user experience, from the end user, what is taking place and where information is coming from that flows into the transaction. Here you'll see we're looking at AJAX calls, web pages, mobile, and synthetic transactions, all feeding into this application flow, and the diagram illustrates that, okay, so that we can see that the user experience is coming from all of those different sources, so that we can drill down to individual parts of that to make a determination as to what's taking place there. Okay, then the last screen I want to show you is, okay, for some reason it is not going to the correct screen. Okay, oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, back to the end user flow is what I want to show you here is one of the key capabilities, which I'm sure you're expecting, which is we can drill down into specific code, okay, to take a look for any service that's taking place out on the server stack to see what's going on with the code, and is there any particular procedure or method or the like, okay, that is causing the performance problem, so that you can immediately understand what you need to go investigate and fix. As I mentioned previously as well, is that we are also incorporating log information, and that's what you see on the screen right here, okay, because there's a great deal, the devil's in the details, and here's where the devil may reside, is that within the logs themselves, they contain an incredible amount of information as to what's transpiring with the server and in the server environment with the application. And you need to be able to also see this. We don't expect you to have to go get a separate tool to basically be able to see this. It's incorporated right into your main dashboard. So you can go from code, okay, and the code, actual lines of code, and if this looks very similar to the code that we exposed with mobile, exactly. You can see mobile side code. If a code problem occurs on the mobile device, you can see the code here on the server side as well, so that wherever the problem resides, you get the level of granular detail that you need. So I'm going to switch back screens again and just go through a quick summary. Okay, this is a statement of what the HPE AppPulse Suite provides. Okay, the first and foremost and most fundamental requirement these days is to be end user aware, to make sure that not only are their applications performing well, which has typically been the SLA measure, is, you know, are they getting a 2 millisecond response time? Is that within margin? But what we have found in working through all this, and I'm sure you've experienced it as well, is that the performance is not the only measure that counts. You could have perfectly operating response times within the application, but the users are still abandoning because the application flow doesn't make any sense to them. And that goes back to what Eric was emphasizing and Darren were emphasizing earlier, is user experience is more than just about performance. When you need to see the performance, we provide you with the information on the performance all the way out to a mainframe and into a mainframe Java application if you need to see that. But you also need to take a look at those user flows to ensure that the user is actually progressing through the application in the way that makes sense. And that is the ultimate design goal of the AppPulse Suite, is to make that first and foremost, and then to provide the end-to-end visibility, to make sure that when a performance problem shows up, you can see behind the firewall, you can see it in the cloud, wherever you can instrument the application. We see third-party services, and we'll at least tell you minimum black box type information that it's not going as fast as expected, so that you can talk to the vendor providing the service and ask them to improve their service, or ask them to instrument their part of the application so you can see specific issues that show up there. So that leads to code level visibility analytics, to be able to tell you not only where the code procedure problem is, but also to give you some insight based upon historical information as to why that's occurring and where it may be impacting. which leads to streamlined troubleshooting. This is all intended and built for DevOps and Agile. Okay, in fact, we use Agile processes to build the products themselves, so that you have to be able to take this information and feed it back to your development teams so that they can then optimize the application, feed it into testing, and as Aaron mentioned, that Active is based on LoadRunner. We also have the intent of feeding the information into LoadRunner so that they can then test it out to make sure that a fix actually creates the impact that you're expecting. And finally, dependency mapping, if you can't tell how certain elements, and this is where the analytics come in, to basically be able to say, well, where else is it impacting? What parts of it? Is it the network problem? Are we seeing network delays? What element of the environment is causing this impact, so that you can see all of it, and all of it to as much detail as possible is uncovered for you.
Hey Tom, this is Jim Copio. Just doing a time check. We have like 7-8 minutes, and we have a lot of Q&A. So
okay, I'm on my last slide. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Okay, so this is basically, in a nutshell, summarizes the details of what's in AppPulse Trace, or the AppPulse Suite, including Trace, which is the new and third leg of the product suite.
Awesome. Hey, thanks everyone. The presenters were awesome. We did get a lot of questions, so we're going to try to fit these in the time remaining. If I may, the questions, this probably would be for Darren around AppPulse Mobile. First question, how hard is it to deploy mobile apps with AppPulse Mobile? Does it take a lot of development time?
Yeah, this is a differentiator for us because a lot of our competition requires you to put the tags on your elements so that when users are interacting with your app, they're sending the metrics over. But we have created an SDK that you can deploy against your application, and then it tags it for you. We call it tagless because it's handling all that work for you. And then once it's done doing the tagging, it gives you a copy of your new tagged app. You re-sign it and send it to the Play Store, and metrics come down. One of the things we hear often is, a lot of our apps aren't even created by our own team. We go through a third party, and we're kind of at the mercy of, what they create for us. We have no means of tracking or monitoring it, and we're really not developers. That's why we went through a third party. Totally get that. That's what the industry is doing. But the reason why we built this tool in the way we did is anybody from the line of business, the CEO, could tag these apps by running the SDK against it. It's really that simple. And how long does it take is a great follow-up question I hear often. It depends on the size of your app. I've seen it tag within 2 minutes. I've seen it take up to about 12 minutes, depending on the size of your app. So if you have a very, very big app, it takes a little bit longer. But, guys, we're talking about minutes. And once deployed, you can basically get the view of from your customer's eyeballs, what they're doing. Every push, every click through your application reported to AppPulse Mobile.
Oh, awesome. Another follow-up for you, Darren. Does AppPulse Mobile increase the size of mobile apps?
Well, absolutely it does. But how much? That's the real question, right? How much more is it going to add? Well, we are putting a unique identifier, a series of text around every element in your app. On average, it increases it by about 3%. So it's not an enormous change in the size of your app. And we do have a white paper that is downloadable from the SAS portal, sas.hp.com portal, that gives you the information around how much payload is going to change to your app. Another thing that we do that is helpful for people who are concerned, once you do the encoding, once you do the tagging, you can see both your old version of your app and the new version of your app side by side and physically see the difference in payload. You can also open your app again and investigate what changes took place. None of this is secret. We allow developers to look at that if that's something that's important to them. But overall, what you should see is a minor increase in the size of your payload.
Okay, thank you. There is a question about what kind of user data are you collecting with AppPulse Mobile, and are there any privacy issues?
I hear this one often, and we get it. It's a very big concern. What if customers are putting in their credit card? What if they're putting in their username and their password? And, what if they're writing private messages to somebody? Okay, yeah, get it. That's that would be a major security. We have algorithms in place that don't record any type of information that we find to be sensitive. So that includes dates, names, social securities, credit cards. We don't store any of that personal information. We look at an aggregate of data for information. So in other words, yes, 1,000 users logged in or 100,000 users logged in, but we don't tell you that Mike logged in or Jim. We don't tell you that, and we don't capture or store that information in any way. We also allow you, if even a button is too sensitive or a link is too sensitive, we allow you to have an edit button inside of the tool, and once you modify it from the UI of Apple's mobile, no one would ever see the original content again. So even if there's buttons in your apps or links within your apps that you find to be too sensitive, it can all be modified from the UI of Apple's mobile. Great question.
Thank you. Yeah, here's a good one. There's a company participant on this call talking about their development team is using the free version of mobile APM that monitors crashes. So why should they use the AppPulse over this option?
Yeah. So yes, guys, there are freemiums that allow you to get crash analytics, of what's going on with your mobile app. But really, this is just like the very low level. It's not giving you everything your users are doing. It's not really going to help you to understand how your customers are using your application, how they're moving through your app, and you're not tracking any of the performance. So it's just the crash side of the equation. So what we're trying to do with AppPulse Mobile is give you a holistic end-to-end view, not just from the front end, but with trace all the way through the back end of what your app's doing. And we want to give you full visibility. There are tools on the market that are free, that are freemium, right? But it's like driving without mirrors. It's like driving with your maybe one hand. It's not giving you all the control that you should be having and the visibility that makes moving through this space doable.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I have a question here from Vinu. Bear with me one second. How much is the overhead for installing the probes on the servers and from the client side?
I'm going to let Tom answer that one because I think it's around AppPulse Trace.
Okay, Tom?
Right. We're using the technology that we've previously had and been measured to be 1% or less. Essentially, what we've done is a lot of work on agents to ensure that we're not gathering every piece of information because that would put incredible amount of overhead onto the server app. Instead, hello?
We still hear you, Tom.
Hear you.
I'm sorry. I thought I had lost the call. Instead, we've instrumented to essentially be smart agents to ensure that we're not spamming performance information. With that, we've been able to keep the agent footprint to 1% or less.
Okay, cool. I see we're at the top of the hour, so I know some people have to drop off. They have hard stops. Just a reminder, all the slides, the recording, and the Q&A, of which we didn't finish, will be posted in a couple of days. You'll get a link soon, and you click on that. It'll take you to all those archives, and you can see the remaining questions, and we'll make sure the answers get embedded over the next couple of days. So I do want to respect everyone's time. Let me just chat quickly about London Discover 2015. It is coming up soon, December 1 through 3. And by the way, the AppPulse family of solutions will be certainly front and center at the Discover conference in London. So you'll get to stop by the booth and learn more face-to-face with many people like the ones on this phone call. And there's a registration link, so there is a discount through Vivit if you use that. So next slide. Okay, that might be it on the slides.
Yeah,
that's
it on the slide.
Aaron Posey and Tom Fisher from Hewlett-Packard Enterprises. And you will get a short survey in a moment when you close out. So please respond to that. You can opt in for more, HP information on these products and others. And then we look forward to seeing you at a future webinar. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. I think Terry's there as well. Great job. This is awesome. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.